In this video, we've got Pregrag, who's sent through his footage. Let's take a look and see what he can do with his technique and his stroke to be a faster swimmer and more efficient. The first thing that I'm noticing here is that he might be exhaling his air too quickly. So what I find a lot of beginner swimmers get taught is you should breathe out straight away. Bubbles, bubbles, bubbles all the time. But the thing is, it doesn't really happen at the top end. Swimmers will actually hold on to their air, and the biggest exhale comes just before they turn their head to the side to take a breath. So it's okay to actually mostly hold on to your air. So as he takes a breath, you'll notice that gets the breath, and then if we zoom in here and have a look at near the face, seems to be quite a few bubbles happening or coming out around his face there. So I think he's just exhaling too quickly, too early, and that can lead you to feeling out of breath. So what I'd suggest there to him is take a breath, hold on to it, and then have the main exhale happen through your nose as you turn your face to just before the next inhale. And that can lead you to feeling much more comfortable. You're going to float better because you're holding on to that air a little bit longer as well. So it's actually a much easier way to go about things. The second thing that I'm noticing here is that he's lacking the length in the stroke and the propulsion that I think he can get. He can really get further with each stroke if he changes these two things. The first one is his entry and alignment. Now, his right hand entry there is good. It's in the right position. Fingers first, elbow up. So we want to go in fingers first, because then that allows you to get rid of most of the bubbles on the hand as you're reaching forwards, which he does well. So good entry there. But he does appear to probably just cross over the center a little too much at that point. And that leads to him being in a weaker position through his catch and his pull, which I'll show you in a second. Now on his left side, this is what he needs to adjust. The left hand's entering right next to his head. Where you should enter, if you're thinking of how far out should I go, if your other arm is in front of you, anywhere from in front of your elbow to about your knuckles. So for him, his elbow's there, his knuckles are here. So anywhere in that range is where he should enter his hand, not before it. Because if he goes before it, he's then pushing against that water for too long. So it does increase the drag. So I'd suggest on your left hand, go further forwards there, and it should be a bit quicker because you'll be reducing the drag. Now, if we look at that crossover that I mentioned earlier, you'll see it happens quite a bit, especially on this left side. So it enters early, then that left hand comes across the center quite a bit. And especially at that point there, you can see his whole body comes off to the side. So he's really angling off to the side rather than forwards. So for him to be swimming what we call on train tracks, so if you imagine you've got these lines in line with your ear, you want to enter in line with your ears or your shoulders and go straight forwards as you extend. It doesn't mean you pull straight through, but just on your entry and reach, we want to be on those train tracks. So because he's crossing over, he's starting his catch about in the center or maybe even further over than that. And then what happens is he goes through his catch, he's pulling through here rather than out here. So first of all, it looks like it ends up being a fair drop of the elbow. So you can see with his forearm and hand, it's quite flat. So he hasn't got that much surface area that he's pressing back with. But I think more importantly than that, it's often quite a weak position to be in if you're coming through here. It ends up using more through the top and the front of the shoulder at this point, rather than if he was out a little bit wider through that point, he'd be a lot stronger with it. So for example, not that we've got the front on view here, but if his arm was out a bit wider at this point, say his hand would be probably a bit wider than his shoulder as he's in his catch, then he's able to use his lats a lot better and these other stronger muscles through his back and shoulder that allows him to just get so much more out of every stroke without needing to try to get more power, because you're just going to end up using the stronger muscles. So just naturally you'll have a bit more power and you'll get more propulsion from each stroke. So that to me is where he's really not slipping necessarily, but he's just lacking the propulsion that he could otherwise get. So I would start with those couple of things. Begin with the breathing, hold on to your air, have the bigger exhale as you turn your head to breathe. And I would recommend using this side breathing drill that you can see here. This is one that I give a lot of swimmers that I work with online, that I work with at our clinics, just to get the breathing aspect of it sorted. Simple drill, you just need kickboard and fins, but that way it helps you get the breath low, and you can also practice how you should inhale and exhale as well. Then I'd work on the entry, so left hand a bit further forwards. So he's entering about there instead, and being on the train tracks. So he may need to feel like he's pretty wide when he's entering and reaching forward so that he gets here. We don't want him to be wider than that, but for him it might feel like he's going super wide compared to what he's used to doing. So I'd begin with those things. Then we just look to work on the catch and pull and just bring the hands out a bit. And so I think of where the hands should go. It should be like tracing the outside line of your body. Meaning, if you're up here, you sort of come outwards and then you come in. It's almost like you should be tracing this outside path of the body. So it's kind of like a skinny S as he goes through. That's where the hands should go. If they come under, as we talked about, it's just too much through the front of the shoulders, and it's a much, much weaker position. So they'd be the main couple of things. Now, just a couple of other sort of bonus things that he may be able to do. With the shorts, that creates so much drag if you're just wearing like standard shorts. So I'd get some jammers, get something that's a little bit, that doesn't create as much drag. And that will probably knock off a couple of seconds per 100, that alone. So that can help. And you just feel so much better. Like if I swim in board shorts, I'm several seconds slower per 100 just because of the extra drag. So that's why I'd recommend get some jammers. The other one is on this side here is he's reaching forwards. His hips rotate too far on the side, on the left there, because you can see like they're probably getting to about 60 or 70 degrees. So he's just losing a bit of balance and stability on the side there. So you want to go to about 30 to 40 degrees through the hips, not 60 or 70. So he just over rotates to that side, and then he under rotates to this side here. So he's actually too flat on his left, where the hips look a bit too flat. The right hand finishes a bit short. He's coming out at the hip rather than just past the hip. So he needs to complete that stroke a little bit more on that right side to be able to finish it there. So they're just some sort of extra things that I noticed. But when I work with people, I like to keep it really simple. So if you're not sure where to start, go through the 5 core principles training inside our membership. The first one's breathe deep and relax. I'll give you a couple of exercises to help your breathing be comfortable, to stay relaxed, and actually be in a place where you can then work on the other things. Because if your breathing feels like it's a bit of an effort, that it's like, oh, I'm not very comfortable here, it's hard to progress beyond that. So that's why we recommend just get that breathing sorted, first of all,